Good morning, everybody. I'm going to do a little bit of testing here. Let's make sure everything will work correctly. What's up, Bob? How are you? How you feeling? Bear with me 1 minute, guys. I'm going to change my tripod. I thought this larger one would work better, but it seems like it's going to be too far away for what I want to do today. Bear with me. Bear with me, my friends. Okay, let's see now. All right, I think that'll work. It's going to be somewhere in between. And Keith, I'm getting dizzy. Well, knock it off then. We aren't going anywhere. Okay. Morning, everybody. How are you doing today? Welcome to the Daily Fishing Show. I'm sitting here having my coffee this morning, and it's 16 degrees outside, and I'm watching all the ice go floating down the river out there, and it makes me want to go ice fishing. You know, it's funny how things change. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of great things coming on the ice this year, and you know, so what do we do to get ready, to make sure that we're ready? And for a lot of guys nowadays, so it never used to be the case. So for me, ice fishing was kind of an afterthought. I did a lot of it, but I never really had special equipment that was just my ice fishing equipment. You know, I didn't bring my rod box in, and my rod box is going to get a serious upgrade this year now that I'm with JT Outdoors. JT Rods, and they make an incredible full line of ice rods. And we're going to go through all of them as soon as I get them. My order's on its way. I should have them within a couple days. So most of my ice rods in years past, and most of what's in my box, I have a couple ones that I've bought, but you know, I think I carry 8 rods in that box that goes in my jet sled, and let's say 6 of them are broken rods that I took the tips off of and made a handle and epoxied things together. Jim Carker, welcome, my friend. Nikolai, good morning. We do ice fish on this channel, and as soon as we have safe ice, we'll be out. That's what we're talking about today, getting ready for ice season. So again, most of my rods are homemade. And then I would take reels that I use in open water and put them on, you know, just tape them on the handles and off I go, which is fine. And I'm sure a lot of people still do that. I have now probably a half dozen reels, smaller spinning reels that I use. I haven't had any of those of the new, you know, that straight drop one with the trigger on it, and they look cool. I've always used a spinning reel. So And I typically use smaller reels. I've got, size 10s and 20s. Today, I said, well, let's do something different today. So today I have my Okuma V20. I have two of these. These are great reels. Also, too, I haven't said anything about it yet. I'm still getting everything all logistically set up with this new company with JT Outdoors. JT makes more than just rods. Sorry, they do more than just rods. They make their own rods, and they have a full line of open water walleye and ice rods. They also have a pretty sizable online store where they're selling other products that with companies that they're affiliated. Rapala, Daiwa, Okuma. I've always been an Okuma guy. For years and years, I fished these reels, and I went to those Lew's last year, and I've liked them. I only went with those Lew's because I had a pretty good deal with them through Army Bass Anglers, which I talked to everybody about when I got those reels. But they're a 35 series, and to me that's a little big. It doesn't really balance correctly. But anyway, so this is one of my Okuma ice reels, and we're going to go through today what I do to do my preseason maintenance. So this has been in my ice box since last year, so I haven't fished it. I haven't fished it all season in the open water, but I'm going to go through and we're going to take it apart. And we're going to grease it up and talk our way through things. So I'm a Shimano guy. Every company out there, every reel company out there makes nice reels. I mean, they're not still around if they make junk. And so much of fishing is preference. Again, you guys know I'll never tell you there's only one thing, there's only one way, there's only one company. I just share what I have and what I use and talk about that. But so real quick, I'm gonna get the camera reset up here. Hopefully this works better than I think it's gonna work, and you guys can all see this. Zebco 202. Yeah, I started with a Zebco 33. And I'm going to take this apart and grease it and get it ready for the season. What I use, and this is the stuff that I've always used. The camera's backwards. This is Ardent Reel Butter. It's 100% synthetic, and it's temperature rated. So it doesn't bind on you. It's not going to gum up. I use that on all my reels, no matter the time of year. So let's get started. So first we're just going to take the spool off. Depending on your reel, you just unscrew the drag. Off comes the spool. Now, I will normally I'll have a whole slew of different things to clean with. So your drag wafers are contained up inside here. You can hear it. See how that moves? So I'm always going to take, just to make sure it's smooth, I'm always going to take a couple drops. Couple drops and put it up in here just to make sure everything is lubed and ready to go. So I'll set that aside. Okay. So next, I would take the handle off. Now, some of them are threaded. This one's threaded. Take the cap screw off on this side. This handle assembly is a little more intricate than some. This is back in the day, and this reel's probably 10 years old now. And you can see it's been well used. That's for sure. This is a 13 bearing reel. So it's a little. Sorry, I must have hit the button there. How's that? Are we back? Are we back? Back. Okay. I don't know what happened. Oh. That one's dead, that's why. Okay, we're back. So I'm going to take, there's 3 little screws right there. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take those off. If you're like me, I try my best to remember the order of which I take things apart and what goes with what. Nothing worse than putting everything back together and having an extra screw somewhere. And I wish I could say that that's never happened to me, but it absolutely has. And you can even see that so this little screw right here, let's see, can you see that little bit of blue on there? There's a little bit of Loctite on there from the factory. Still. So all of this reveals a cap screw underneath there that's got to come out. And I try to put stuff back, like I say, in the order that it comes out in. So I know without fail how it goes back together. I get all my parts lined up accordingly. So you have a rotator bearing right there inside that cap screw, which holds the rotor on. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to clean this off real quick. Oh, boy, this shoulder's really on fire. I actually made an appointment Friday morning for the VA to go see my doctor and have him take a look at it and possibly give me a cortisone shot. So now the rotor's completely off. I just make sure I clean it out. Now we have just the reel body, and you can see the bearing right there on the shaft. There's a bearing inside here, or bearings, and you can see how the case comes off. For the sense of time this morning, this will be as far as I tear it down, but you can see that this whole unit comes apart pretty easily. Real maintenance is not hard. You don't have to tear everything apart, believe me. I've made mistakes in the past where I have had to send reels back out after I've messed with them and I couldn't get everything to go back together correctly. But you know, we'll handle that in a second. Let's look real quick at comments. Morning, Don. Morning, Eric. Gary. Nikolai. Jim Carker, good morning. Jim Hagler, good morning. Camera is not backwards. Good job. Oh, looked like it was. Got the audio fixed. Morning, Scott. I use Super Lube synthetic grease and oil. Okay. Is that fishing reel specific, or is that a general thing? Rick Mansell, Pissy Fun, Carbon X. You know, I've watched Tom Boley for years, and I know that's he's partnered with them and he uses all their reels. I've never seen one in person. Cranking with Christian. What's up, buddy? Any fin is possible. Good morning. If I can't put the reel back together, I'll put it back together. Extra parts. You guys are funny. Backwards thread. Yeah, did you see me trying to go the wrong way? Just Paul, I know what I'll be doing today. If you forget what goes where, you can just rewind the video. You guys are a lot of help. I love it. I love it. All right. So let's go through some oiling spots. So you're going to want to hit both sides of where the handle goes through on the outer rim. to get down into those bearings. Also, too, where your main shaft comes through right here, you can see how that turns. And then when you put your anti-reverse the other way, it turns both ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lube around this edge. And I'm going to spin it to where the rotor shaft comes all the way out like that. And I'm going to just put a couple drops along the shaft here. And then as you spin it back, it will come all the way down in. I got fat fingers. And then it'll come all the way back down in and out. Suppose I could do it this way to be a little easier. You can actually see those bearings right there. And I guess most people would think that they're all sealed, but they're not. Some are just in a race. This doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. I mean, we've done more with this reel in the 10 minutes we've been working on it than it's ever had done to it before. Like a glove. And this is just a cap screw. That's just to keep that nut from backing off. And if you see, it goes back, it lines back up with both those holes that are in the rotor body. So all that little all this black plastic piece does is keep that nut from loosening up and allowing that rotor to wobble. So there's no play in that now. Put my washers back on. My drag washer back on. Now this little deal right here, that is the counterbalance that goes inside and along the edge here. That would be no different than a wheel weight on your wheels. The wheel weights keep them from, because it's not perfectly centered. Look at that. Piston back in. Take this all the way down till it's snug. Now again, this is a, at the time when I got these reels, this was, God, the better part of 10 years ago. This was Okuma's top of the line series. Just snug it so it's not too tight. My threaded cap back on. And you are ready to rock and roll, my friends. Now, we've been on 26 minutes. Of that 26 minutes, probably 15 of it tops. And if I wasn't talking, it would have been even faster to get this reel pulled apart far enough. You don't have to get into the guts and start worrying about it, especially if you've never done it before. And if you want to try it on an old reel that you don't mind if you mess it up. But just in that 10 minutes of taking a little bit of time and 15 or 20 drops of oil, you're ready. You're ready. Everything's going to be smooth. When you start fighting those giant walleyes this year or the perch that want to try to rip your arm off, you're ready. It's not going to gum up on you. It's smooth. It's ready to roll. And a little tiny bit of maintenance. We live in a disposable world. I get it. I was taught by a man who came out of the Depression era, my grandfather, and a lot of us, Rumble Seat came out of the Depression era. He's so old. We live in a disposable era where if something stops working, you just chuck it and buy another one. Okay, I'm okay with that sometimes, but when you start spending a lot of money on something, in my opinion, it behooves you to take care of it, maintain it, and get all of your use out of it. And if you're somebody that's spending a couple $100 a piece on reels, then I would be doing this, especially if you fish a lot. I would be doing this. I do it with all of my reels twice a year. And that's, I do a before and after the season care. I go through all my rods. I clean my handle. Years ago, I met the Bass Professor when I had my old tackle shop and the Elite Series was here on Oneida Lake. And I bought a bunch of his products. He gave me a bunch of his products. And I used to sell this stuff too. It's the Professor, and I don't know Wilson Fraser. I don't know if you can still get this stuff, but he had a whole line of stuff. Now this I use on my, this is called Crystal Vision. It's professional optics cleaner. I use it on my sunglasses. I use it on my Garmin unit in the boat. I use it on my laptop. This stuff's great. He makes everything under the sun. So again, I don't know if you can still get that stuff, but if you can, it's well worth it. And that little bit of maintenance, even if something is disposable, boy, you don't want to have it break down in that moment where you've got a big eye on and you're looking at them through the ice or over the side of the boat, and all of a sudden your reel freezes up, or and it's shot. So do yourself a favor and be prepared, and it gives you a chance to really know your equipment and go through it intimately and understand how it works and make it work better. Let's do our last group of Uh, Don Terry, I went to 43 North Marina yesterday. Their launch area was open with a little skim ice in the mouth. Probably more now. I'll be checking the old ice at my place tomorrow morning. Don, for those of you who don't know, has a place on the South Shore, not far from the yacht club. It's cold this morning, and that ice is rolling down the lake. It was 16 when I woke up. The sun's out, so it's going to come up a little, but I don't think it's going to come up a ton. I'm sure it was making ice. Now, yesterday, coming home from Sylvan Beach, from the job site, Danny and I came home. My son Danny and I came home along the North Shore, and from North Bay all the way to between Bernards Bay and Constantia was wide open. Right close to shore. There was some shore ice, but right close to shore, it was open and looked like as far across to the south as you could see was open. Once we hit Constantia from there west, it was tight. You could see it had a little bit of white on it, a little bit of snow on it. You could see all the way to the Big Islands from Constantia, and it was solid. So I haven't heard any news or reports from up north. Depending, I don't really know what's going to happen with me. I have a VA appointment Friday morning for my doctor to look at my shoulder and with any luck, give me a cortisone shot. If he does give me a cortisone shot in this shoulder, then I'm going to be out of commission for the weekend. Because they say you're supposed to do nothing with the affected area that the shot goes in for 72 hours. So, but I have my ears open and my North Country network to see if there is any safe fishable ice anywhere up there. Black Lake, Lake of the Isles, Goose Bay possibly. So I'll let you guys know what I know, and you'll know as soon as I can get on the ice, I'll be out there. Why hasn't some tiny piece fell off the table and under the buffet? Oh, Bob, you're just mad because I made an old joke, which was funny. Good morning, Mark Webb. Good morning, George. Kevin Stone, what is your preferred ratio for a spinning rod? Kevin, what do you mean? Preferred ratio? You mean for a spinning reel? I'm assuming you mean the gear ratio for a spinning reel. Most of my reels and most spinning reels are 5.0 to 1. My Lew's Hypermags are 6.2 to 1. And I will tell you, going forward, I use both. When I'm fishing swim baits in super cold water, I tend to go with that 5.0 to 1. It's a slower retrieve ratio. And then when I slow that down even more, I think I feel like I have a little better control. When I am jigging, no matter what it is, to where you have that rise and fall and you have slack built in, especially when you're drift jigging towards your jig, I have found this year that I really like that faster retrieve, that faster gear ratio. And you can pick that, as soon as you feel that tick on the down, especially when your jig gets hit on the way down, no matter what jig it is, a blade, a jig and wrap, a bucktail, when you feel that get hit on the way down, I was just, that faster gear ratio went boom, and you got it, you were on them like that. So, I think there's a place for both. If you only had to have one, I would probably go with a faster, higher gear ratio than I would a slower one, because you can always slow down, but you can't speed up something. Just you can only speed it up just so much. Quit shaking the damn thing. What about line maintenance, Jim Carker? That's a great question. In the grand scheme of things, fishing line is cheap. And so change it on a regular basis. With my braid, And I switched this year to Cortland Master Braid, and I don't see myself going back. I think they make an outstanding product. I've been really, really pleased with everything from color retention to castability. And in castability, I don't get near the wind knots that I used to get with other braids that I fished. Part of that is, and you guys see me incessantly, it's just force of habit now. I cast, so I cast, close my bail by hand, always close your bail by hand, always. Even in the modern era where there's no bail spring in there and it's magnetic, still, I always, I never, you could do it here, but like I said, I never close it with the handle. I always, boom, I close it, I pull a little bit of line out, I visually look at my spool while that's already in the water to make sure that that everything's coming off the reel through the roller perfectly. And I'll pull a little bit of line, do a drag check. That's not really necessarily to check my drag. It's more to, for me, it's more about just visually inspecting and taking that split second to look down and to see that everything is lined up properly. So you would cast, close the bail, and then I just do that little bit of check like that. So that's what I do with that. Is there steelhead in Pulaski right now? You bet your ass there are. Oh, what I was saying about line maintenance, Jim, you brought up a good point. So with braid, two things. I never fill the whole spool with braid because it's a waste. I mean, what's the farthest you could possibly cast? I don't know, 100, 150 feet maybe, I guess. I don't know. And then even if you let out and let sink another 50 feet, so you're only using the last, let's say 200 feet of your line. So I will fill the spool halfway with monofilament, cheap monofilament backer. I have big bulk spools of any number of cheap lines in the garage. I fill with usually 8 or 10 pound, nothing too heavy. It doesn't really matter because it's never going to see the light of day. So I'll fill that spool halfway with monofilament, and then I tie my knot, and then I fill the rest of the half of the spool with braid. Now, let's say I fish that braid for, I don't know, a month or two, whatever the time frame is. Within that time, as you cut off or break leaders off and tie new on, you always are cutting back the business end of that braid, okay? And then you'll start losing color, and then I know with the Suffix, that 832 that I always used, you really could tell when it lost its color, it lost its body, and it was so limp that's when it was so prone to wind knots. So when that started happening, I would sit here at my at my table, which is my desk, and I would strip all that line off onto the floor, just like this. Strip it all off. And then when I got to the end of it, and then I would go back the other way and I would put it all back in a pile. So the good end, the unused end, was now on the floor, and I'd go all the way back to where the old end was. I'd reconnect that with the backing and then spin all my line back on. So I basically turned it around. I would take it all off, turn it the other direction, and use the other end. And so now I'm getting double the use. So a 300-yard spool, I would get 4 reels off of, or 4 tries. So figure So 75 yards is 250 feet. Well, so then 4 reels, each of those reels would have 2 lives on it, two line lives. So you'd use the one and then you'd turn it around, retie it, put it back on, you'd use the other end. And that's how I maximize financially and to utilize that line to its best condition. So that's line maintenance for me. Kevin Stone, what is your preferred line, fluoro or braid? This year, so in the past years, everything that I fish has been braid. This year, I got wrapped up in fishing super light line for those on my swim baits, and I had 3 different rods set up. I had my one rod where I was bottom dragging that swim bait that had straight 10-pound fluorocarbon on it. Fluorocarbon sinks and it's invisible and it has great abrasion resistance. So I had that down there as I was dragging those swim baits on the bottom. And then for my other 2 rods that were designed and were fishing even lighter swim baits and lighter heads that were somewhere in the column as opposed to on the bottom, I had one that was with 8-pound mono, and I had one that was with 4-pound mono straight from the reel right straight to the jig head. In years past, I had always ever just fished braid on my swim baits and lengthened my leaders. I've tried every braid to leader knot out there. They all fail if you let them go through the eyes repeatedly, cast after cast after cast. I'm a big fan of 10 or 15 foot long leaders. You can still do it, but you have to change that leader and retie that knot. Really, you should do it daily. I don't, and I've lost fish and lures because of it. And so then this year I switched over a little bit and I started going to shorter leaders, especially on my blade rod. So the knot never came back through the eyes when I would cast. So I don't know that it was necessary for me to go with straight fluoro and or mono on my reels. And I'll tell you, one of the best and excellent Mike Casano, in the day him and I fished together, and Mike Urema said the same thing to me. They run braid to fluorocarbon on a 3 or 4 foot leader, and they catch as many fish as anybody else does on a swim bait. And Mike Casano fishes swim baits religiously and is excellent at it. And that video that I just put out last night, that walleye, swim bait walleye video, Mike's on there for 3 or 4 times, and he's running braid to a 3 to 4 foot leader, and with no issues. So, so much of all this stuff is personal preference. Figure out what you like and what works for you. Thoughts on line color? These things right here mean I like a bright line. So I can see what's going on, and in all situations. But when I am jigging anything, I'm watching that line as it falls and then bellies. I'm watching that line, so I've got to have, me with 51-year-old eyes, I've got to have something I can see, because it's one more way I have absolute vision and control over my jig, and I see those bites, and sometimes you'll see that bite before you will feel it. In the old days when I had my tackle shop, an excellent largemouth fisherman in this area, Steve Kroll, I used to order him Power Pro, 50 or 60 pound Power Pro that he used for his flipping rods, in the brightest color they had. I don't remember what color it was, but in the brightest color they had. And when he was flipping, it was the same thing. You would see that line jump on dark green, moss green line. Boy, it's hard to see that sometimes. So he would run that high vis Power Pro in those days, and then take a black Sharpie marker and blacken out, 2 or 3 feet of it above, so when he was flipping, he was running that right straight to the hook. So he would take 3 or 4 feet and hit it with black, thinking that if that would possibly deter them, that bright line down there. I don't know if it did or didn't, but that's what he did. So for me, line color is for my own vision, and I don't know that it affects the fish much. And if you're running a 3 or 4 foot fluorocarbon leader, and that fish is on the bottom and your colored line is way up here, and this doesn't show a real scale, but if it's 3 or 4 feet above their head, do they see it? I don't know. But everybody I know catches a lot of fish with bright colored lines so they can see it down to a leader. They're great questions. Rumble seat. I'm still using the same line when Johnny Unitas was playing football. Okay, Bob, half the problem with that joke is most of the guys on here don't even know who Johnny Unitas is. And 2, it reminds me of my gramp used to tell the story about my great grandfather who lived in Lakeport, right on the lake. And they'd go out fishing, and my great-grandfather would go to cast, and his line would lay on top of the water like this in big coils. And he was using heavy line, or I remember multiple times going trout fishing down in 9 Mile Creek with him, and you'd see guys on the bank, and they'd cast out, and they were using such heavy line that it would just sit as a coil on top of the surface of the water. And what's that doing down below? The one thing about braid over either of your filamented lines, monofilament or fluorocarbon, is it doesn't have memory. So when it goes out, it lays flat. The modern mono and fluorocarbon is so far advanced over the old stuff, but lighter is better, in my opinion. I go as light as I can possibly get away with, and you take care of it. Fluoro leaders are great until Mr. Pike shows up. Nothing you can do about that. Dallas Sumner. Deer hunting caused me to abandon my open water rods hastily. Thank you for the encouragement to dig them out and make amends. So Dallas, listen, let's say you're not an ice fishing guy and you're pining away for open water season to come back. I love fishing tackle. I love my own stuff. I love my gear, and I like to play with it. Who doesn't like to play with their rods? I'm going to let that one sit for a second. Who doesn't like to play with their rod? And it gives you a chance to get things back out, go over them, see if there's anything wrong, things that you want to change. It gets the brain moving. You start thinking about, what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. Hunting season's great, believe me. I didn't do much of it this year, but and a lot of times guys just, when they put stuff away, they don't think about it. And then the night before they're going to go for opening day, they're like, oh man. There's plenty of weekend days throughout the winter where the weather's nasty and you don't feel like leaving the house even. Go out to the garage, grab your stuff, bring it in, spread it all over the kitchen table because your wife will love that. I promise you. And play with your stuff and get it out and look at it and go through it all. And then when opening day comes, then you just got to load stuff in the boat or in your truck and off you go because everything's already taken care of. I'm trying to start a conference call and listen to the show. Listen, Jim, you got to have priorities. I assume the show is more important than the conference call. All right, guys. God, we're at almost an hour. I love talking to you guys. And we're going to call it a day. I got to get moving. And I hope everybody out there has a great day. I love you guys. Be good. It's hump day. Weekend's in sight. Don't know what it's going to bring yet, but the weekend is in sight. So have a great day. Do something great for yourself. It'll naturally happen. You'll do something great for others. Start here. Get everything going in the right direction. All that positive flow just keeps going round and round. So when you jump in the pool of positivity, you're going to get right in there with it. So we're all in here. We're all ready to go. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Oh, that kind of hurt. I'm going to do it with the left arm from now on. Keep your tip up.